Welcome to the Patriots Report, part of the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel. My name is Christopher Price, the Boston Globe and BostonGlobe.com, joined as always by my podcast partner, two-time Super Bowl champion, Chris Hogan. Chris, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Want to start here with Romeo Doubs and what you think of Romeo Doubs. He was probably the Patriots' highest profile free agent signing, as a guy who played the position in the National Football League on a regular basis to some acclaim. Tell me what makes him special, what makes him unique, and what makes him possibly a good fit for the Patriots in Foxborough.
Well, I went back and I haven't seen a lot of Romeo Doubs tape, so I made sure that I went and watched it because the internet trolls of the Patriots Report listeners were saying that Chris Hogan's not a football guy because he said Alex Pierce was not capable of doing all the things that would have been asked of him of doing. And so I made sure that I went and watched a bunch of YouTube highlights of Romeo Doubs. And I'll tell you right now, right off the bat, I was impressed with his catching ability. If you watch a lot of his film, he catches everything with his hands. He really does. He catches his in traffic, contested catches. He catches everything out with his hands. So like
you mean this kind of move,
right out the bat, like, just so right off the bat, you kind of watch him. You say, okay, guy that's a strong pass catcher, someone that's going to be, I think, a reliable target for Drake. And then you kind of go through his tape. I mean, he's a guy that seems he moves around. He's got some big playability that he can do. So I think that this is going to be a guy that Josh, he's explosive. He's got that yak ability. He's capable of turning, those 3, 4, 5 yard routes, and maybe he's make a couple guys miss and, turn it into a longer play. But I also think he has the ability to be an every down guy, right? A guy that's going to move the chains, right? Take the 3, 4 yard hitch, right? And get the first down. So I like the signing. I do. I think that I think Josh he's gonna fit well into this offense. I think he's gonna be asked a lot. I do. I think that he needs to be like, you come from one offense, and I've been in a lot of other offense, so I don't know Green Bay's offense, but you go from one to the Patriots. I think that the Patriots offense and Josh's offense always requires a little bit more accountability to personnel groupings, formations, movement, pre-snap movement, just overall football knowledge. I think he's going to probably he'll learn a lot from Josh, and I think that he seems like a smart guy. So I think it was great. I think that it replaces the Steph Diggs loss with a talented receiver that is, I would say, Stefon Diggs-esque, right? Hopefully gives you what you want and can fit well into this offense.
Just running down a few numbers. He played on the outside 82% of the time last year, in the slot 18%. So he does have some positional versatility, but mostly an outside guy. He is 6'2", 204 pounds. I had to look this up on Diggs. 6 feet, 191. So he's a little bit bigger.
He's bigger, but he also shows the ability to be inside, run those crossers, run the drags across the field, catch that stuff on the move. He's not just a slant, stab, stop guy on the outside and, post and, all the things down the field. Like, he has that capability of doing that. It shows it on his film. But he also has the stuff across the middle and catch the ball in traffic and do all of those sort of things. So, but I love that. I think that Josh likes those guys that are. He doesn't have a guy that's pigeonholed into just being a slot receiver, right? Mm-hmm. He has a guy now that he can move around and be comfortable on the outside, but also on the inside in the slot. So I think that for Josh, that's a win-win for him. He's bringing a guy in that we know is going to play, right? I mean, we brought him in here to be the quote-unquote number one receiver, right? And whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to make of what a number one receiver is. But I think having that guy that is able to do multiple things, I think that's great. And listen, you've covered these Josh for a long time. I played in his offense. His offense isn't built around guys just being on one side of the field or inside or outside, right? He's got multiple guys that are going to be able to do a lot of different things. So I think that with the guys that he has in the room right now, he's got Matt, Kayshawn, Pop, Kyle Williams, and now you add Dobbs. I think that's a good add. I think that's a talented room, and give Kyle another year and another offseason of learning the offense and kind of getting comfortable being an NFL player. Get Pop going a little bit. Try to get this kid involved. Whatever happened last year, listen, it's a new year, new opportunity, right? So take the offseason very seriously. Your training, your knowledge of the game and the offense and the playbook, and hopefully maybe this is the year, right, that he kind of pops up. I think Matt Collins is just going to be the guy, right? He's just going to be that down the field, do all the things that's asked of me, run blocking. I mean, you're kind of putting together, a good room. And for those that want to go out and sign AJ Brown or Alex Pierce, it's not necessary, right? It's put the pieces in the puzzle together, right? Where now you have a room full of talented receivers that Drake is going to be able to trust. They'll be accountable. They'll know what they're doing. The ball gets spread around just like it was last year. And you keep kind of leveling up this offense, and you keep just kind of trusting the process of year to year of how this team can kind of progress and get better. And you just keep adding different pieces that are going to come in and be team players, right? And do what's asked of them as well. Dobbs is not going to, I mean, we can't have a guy that's going to come in and say, I need 10, 12 targets a game, right? That doesn't work. That doesn't work in Josh's offense, right? They'll come. The targets will definitely come, but you got to be a guy that's willing to do a multiple of different things.
You bring up a phrase, and I'm glad that you did, and I want to kind of get into it here a little bit, the idea of a number one wide receiver and whether or not this team needs a number one wide receiver. You guys, for so many years, did not have a prototypical number one. Now, look, you had the greatest tight end in the history of the game. You had the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, so that has to be taken into account. But when you talk about adding someone to this offense, this passing game, do you think they still need to go out and get a quote-unquote number one wide receiver, whether that's A.J. Brown, whether that's someone else, or are they okay going into 2026 with this group of wide receivers in your mind?
I mean, I think from the outside perspective, it's like if there's somebody out there that you can go get that's going to add value and to the team and to the room, then sure. But at the expense of draft picks or at the expense of signing somebody to protect Drake, or if we could go out and get an edge rush, so like I think that you have to look at the whole picture of all this. Yes, I do think that these guys are capable of being the receivers in this room. And like you said, there are teams that are built around number one receivers that do get the 10, 12 targets a game and are successful because those guys are that good, right? And their offenses are built around one guy. Josh's offense is not built around one guy. It never has been, right? Yeah, sure. We had Gronk, we had Jules, we had Dan, we had guys, but we had specific plays drawn up for those specific people. But then he also had an offense and a game plan that was built around the quarterback making the right read and the right decision, right? There might be a man side and his own side, or it's we're playing a man team, and now it's like pick your best matchup. So now you look across the board and you got guys that you are going to have to look out there, be able to trust and say, okay, I know that Dobbs is going to be able to win on this route, or Mac, or Kayshawn, or Kyle, or the tight, Hunter, right? Like looking out across the board, you got guys that are capable of making plays. Like I love the fact that he's going to have Drake is going to get another year and another offseason with these guys, right? Like time makes it, like being over time, right? That makes a huge difference in just quarterback relationship with their receivers and the skill players. You have obviously the running backs too. So I don't think it's necessary. I think if something comes up and it doesn't cost us draft picks or anything like that, because I still think that we can still really build this team for the future in the draft, and doesn't necessarily have to be in free agency. Um, I like it, right? And it also, if you don't go out and sign an AJ Brown or to the wide receiver room, it's like, yeah, man, we're good. We're good
That's
with
an
you.
important part of this. Yeah, I
I
agree.
like our room, and that's a confidence thing for the receivers in that room, saying, okay, like this is what we got. Like, let's go out, and people can say whatever they want to say, but you go out and you win football games, quiets everyone real quick.
I'm curious also about Diggs and the loss of Diggs. Well, first of all, I want to get Romeo Doubs, 55 catches, 724 yards, 6 touchdowns last year.
Mm-hmm.
Good numbers, competitive numbers, fairly in the ballpark with what he put up over the first 4 years of his career. We had a chance to talk with him on last Thursday, with 5 or 6 of the free agents. And he came in, was very impressive, very quiet, like Steph Gilmore kind of quiet.
Oh.
And so, which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
We all love Steph Gilmore.
Yep.
But at the same time, you are taking Steph Diggs out of the equation. He's very vocal, a very forward-facing leader. The guy who was on the field before every game, getting everyone rallied. He was Mr. All we got is, all we need.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I don't think Doubs is that kind of guy. Is there someone on the roster right now who you think could be that guy? And I'm not just talking about, the BS leadership stuff that we talked about before, but Diggs had a way. Look, all we got is, all we need is still on the front door of the pro shop. I mean, that is something that's going to live for a very long time. In those things, no days off, all that kind of stuff. That plays very well in the locker room and the fan base. Who is going to be the next guy in that regard to come up with the next slogan, to be the guy who rallies everyone on the field before the game, who talks to guys in the locker room, who takes charge in meetings or at practices, the next alpha guy maybe on that roster going into 2026 to replace a guy like Steph Diggs?
Well, first of all, we got to talk to Steph Diggs people, make sure that he trademarked all you got and all he needs. So he's seeing a piece of the pro shop sales. Make sure Robert Kraft maybe still cutting him a check throughout the year. I think, I mean, listen, you have veteran. It's going to be a veteran guy, right? So you never really expect rookies or even first-year players to step into those roles, or second-year guys, or even just the young guys in general. They purposely have the opportunity to do so in the absence of Steph. And I think if you're just talking in the receiver room specifically, it's, I think all signs and fingers are pointed toward Mac, right? A guy that is not afraid to speak his mind or show his, what he believes in and how he feels walking in. I mean, his game day outfits and just his overall personality. I would love to sit down and have a beer with him and, take my shoes off and do some grounding. And I mean, he sounds like an all-time teammate and locker room guy. So I would expect Mac to kind of step up in that leadership, in that role, and take on that responsibility, specifically in that room, right? Because it's still relatively a young room, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, you don't have a Julian that's been around Josh for 8-9 years, or a Danny, or any of those other guys, right? And you have a quarterback that's still young. But maybe it's an opportunity for Drake to be a little bit more outspoken.
Yeah.
Right? Have the quarterback. Now, I know we're always from now until the end of days, right? Until the Patriots are not a football team anymore, every quarterback is always going to be compared to Brady. And Brady, it's not like Brady was ever in the locker room and giving the pump up speeches and doing. He did it when it was necessary, right? And he was outspoken on the field and in the practice, like when watching film and on practice, and always his expectations were like just above and beyond. I think that that's probably something that Drake can learn from and try to model a little bit after, is taking on and making sure that the expectations for this offense are high, right? Because we all know that Josh's expectations are going to be nothing but the best, and he's going to expect that. So that's got to be voiced, and regurgitated through his players as well. And for a guy that's in the meeting room and spends all day with his offensive coordinator, right? I think that Drake is another choice for this offense. I'm not saying from a team perspective, but for this offense to be a little bit more outspoken, right? I think Mac can he's the special teams offense. I mean, I'm sure he'd play defense if he asked him to play defense too. So I think he's a guy that can kind of step up in the absence of Steph Diggs. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, listen, those guys seem to be soft-spoken anyways. They kind of do a lot of their talking on the field. But if you're going to, maybe it's a Robert Spillane type of guy to kind of step up and be a voice and kind of continue the, what Rabes and the defensive staff are preaching and what they're looking for and how they expect things to go, because you've raised the expectation level of this team, right? The expectation for 2026, the 2026-27 season, the expectation is going to be high. There was no expectation last year. I mean, clearly the team and Vrabes and the Patriots organization had an expectation of being good and competitive and trying to win football games, but you went to the Super Bowl. So like the expectations from everyone, I think, even from non-Patriots fans and people from on the outside looking in at New England, I think the expectation is like, you're going to go and win football games this year. And I don't know if Vegas has come out with odds yet of what the over-under for wins is, but I got to imagine it's going to be higher than it has been in the previous years. And I think that's great, right? Like, raise the level of expectation, but also that underdog mentality. I think that's still going to carry with them this year. I think that they're going to be underdogs at home a few times this year. I think that they're going to be underdogs on the road. And I think that that's great, right? This locker room is filled with underdogs, right? The guys that have been cut, been counted out, haven't, they were good on other teams, but now they've come and they're playing together, and they have a coach that they want to play for. They got a quarterback they want to play for, and an organization that they want to play for. So, I think this year, I know last year was great watching them play and compete. I think this year can be a really big test for them throughout the year to continue on this level of competition and just overall play, right? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see year one to year two. It's tough to win in the National Football League. Can you go on the road and be as successful as you were last year? I don't know. That's hard to do, right? Are my expectations that they go back to the Super Bowl? No, I think that's unrealistic, but it'd be great to see them there. And my expectation is that they're going to grow as an offense and as a team and go out and win football games to be competitive in the AFC East and try to get to the playoffs. Like, hell yeah, absolutely.
As we sit here right
Absolutely.
now, I think a fair level of expectation. Look, there's a lot of time between now and the first week of September, but a fair level of expectation is to ask them to be competitive and maybe even be a playoff team once again. And I don't think that's going above and beyond at this stage of their overall development. I'm curious about the leadership thing, and I think it needs to come with a few kind of, the guy needs to check a few boxes. Needs to be a veteran. It needs to be authentic. To your point about Tom, you can't all of a sudden have someone who is a soft-spoken guy get up and start ranting and raving and
that doesn't work.
Flipping tables over and all that kind of stuff. It needs to be kind of in their nature. And this is kind of a weird thing. Covering the team for a long time, there are a few guys who have kind of veteran status who cross over from offense to defense or defense to offense when it comes to the overall level of respect that they get. And just off the top of my head, I remember Kevin Falk being one of those guys, Junior Seau being one of those guys. And I think that we've seen Morgan Moses do the pregame speech thing a few times. We saw him a couple of times last year. And if he is around, all signs point to him being back for 2026, he strikes me as maybe another one of those guys who can give that pregame speech, who can, he warrants the level of respect a guy who's been in the league for a decade. So I think we can add him to the list too. I was also curious about, if Barmore's around, Barmore's one of those guys who I think would be kind of in that category. And look, I'm going to put aside the very serious real world stuff that's going on with him over the last year or so. But at the same time, he is also maybe possibly potentially one of those guys. Is there any other free agents for you stand out? I really love Byard. I think that's a great pickup.
Yeah, I think
smart,
that's awesome.
Tough, physical. 7 picks last year. You get him on the back end of that defense with Craig Woodson. I think it's a dynamite combination. I love Jalen Hawkins, but Byard is clearly a variable guy. Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, is going to unlock some of the things that Josh can do in this offense. Plus, I know you love this, Gilliam is a special teams demon. Blood and guts, one of the best special teams. He blocked 6 kicks in his last 2 years in college. This is someone who is going to do everything that Jeremy Springer asked of him, as well as Josh McDaniels. But I'm just curious, is there anyone else in that group, anyone else amongst the free agents that they got that really kind of stands out to you as, man, this guy might be a little bit of a gem here, and we're not really talking enough about him?
I don't know. I think what has to happen is you have to get into the offseason, right? And you have to kind of see how they mesh and how they vibe with the overall team, right? Sometimes it's not easy coming into a new team and trying to be that guy right off the bat, right? What I think is going to be important from the free agents, but also from the guys that are returning, is this offseason. I think that it's going to be important. You had last year, it's exciting, right? It's a new coach, a new staff. You have you have Steph coming in, you have new players, and you're trying to bring an organization back to where it was in years past. And I think that there was that, you had that level of excitement really all throughout the year. Now you've gone to play into February. You played a Super Bowl. You didn't play your best and you lost, but you got there, right? And now you're going to come back into an offseason. Does everyone show up? Is there that same level of intensity and excitement behind year 2 with Raves and Elliott and the coaching staff? Are you able to kind of replicate that throughout the year? And I think that that's going to be something that I would look at going into this offseason, especially when we start OTAs and mini camp, right? Are the guys that are coming back and the guys that we've added, free agents, rookies, all, undrafted guys, are they going to be able to kind of learn the culture, get accepted into the culture, and be coachable, obviously, by Vrabes and Josh, and the coaching staff? And I think that is going to be something that we look from year 1 to year 2 for this team to kind of continue on this road and this path that they're going down of, this is what we're building. This is the culture here. It's tough, hard, competitive football. It's going to be competitive during practice. We're going to be competitive during games. Like, there are no easy roads, right? There is no easy way out. And that takes a specific type of player, right? It doesn't always work out. You see free agent signings all throughout the league where it's like, oh, this guy's an incredible player, but he goes to a different team and he just doesn't really mesh with the coach or the coordinator or just the players in the locker room, and it doesn't work out, right? There are so many guys where you see year to year they sign these massive deals and then they're moving on, they're getting traded, or it just didn't work out and it just wasn't the right fit. So I think there are a lot of circumstances that kind of go into the free agent signings and then just the team in general. And, it definitely takes some time, but I think that this offseason is where they're going to be able to make a big jump from year 1 to year 2. And also you have to get up to speed, right? Now you have a team, and I'm just going to talk about the offense specifically, but from year 1 to year 2, like when I came into New England, man, there was no, the training wheels are not put on. It's either learn it or you don't play. And I felt that, right? I felt that. And I had Chad, who is like amazing and just how he taught and he was the energy, right? Like it was like, okay, we got to get this. Like, it's like, let's get in the room. Here are the formations you need to know. Here are the plays you need to know. Here's the script for today. And like, you have to study and learn this stuff. So for the guys coming in, Romeo Doubs, right? We can't, there's not a waiting period, right? Like get in the playbook, understand the stuff, get in with Josh, get in with Todd, like get in with Drake so that like you can get up to speed so that when you do get out there on the field, right? There's not this waiting period of like, he's new. It's it doesn't matter. Like Tom wasn't like that. It was just like, let's go, bro. Like you're a professional. Take this. You got to figure this out, or like I'm not going to throw you the ball. And I think that Drake can take on a little bit of that responsibility and making sure that there's a big leap from year one to year two. And I think that the guys coming in have to understand that as well, right? Like we're not going to go over day one install for 2 weeks. Like we're going to go day one, day two, we're going to go day three, and you're going to get the first 4 or 5 installs in the first week and a half of the offseason. And the expectation is we're going to build off of this offense, continue what we did well last year, and now add some more things and try to do them well and better and put us all in good positions to be successful and win football games.
Any thoughts about Romeo Doubs getting number 87?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's hard. Numbers are a number, right? I mean, like Gronk was all time. He really was. I mean, if we were to retire his number, I feel like we should have done it a couple years ago. When he kind of exited, and but like obviously you see 87 on the field, any whoever's wearing it in New England jersey, you're obviously always going to think of Gronk, right? It's the same thing if I see an 11 on the field or a 12, like we're not going to see a 12, but like his legacy is cemented in New England. It's not tied to a number, right? And I get that people like, like no one can wear this number. And he was he was the greatest tight end that arguably has played in the NFL, and he had an unbelievable career. But again, I think his legacy goes so far and beyond just 2 digits, right? He was a guy that was in the community. He was helpful, and a guy that was a staple and a figure and a personality for the organization. So he did so many things far and beyond just football that if we needed to retire his number. I'm sure we could at the end of this, at some point. And maybe his number does get retired, but I don't think that I think that people should wear it with a sense of pride, right? And saying that the guy that wore this jersey that had the Patriots on the front, but like different name on the back, but the number definitely carries something, right? The guy that wore this did everything that he did to try to help this football team win. So if there's anything tied behind the number, I think that it's the person that wore it before you was somebody that was willing to do whatever it takes, right? Put his body on the line, put everything on the line, right? To go out there and win football games. So I think Romeo Doubs should be proud to wear that number. I think that Gronk should be proud that somebody else is wearing his number, right? And just to expect that person is going to go out and try to do whatever is best for the team and try to get New England to win football games.
You talked about, you talked about Romeo Doubs wanting to, getting in the playbook and the importance of getting with Josh and the importance of getting with Drake. One of the things that stood out for me when we talked to Elliot was the fact that he was trying to get him to put the iPad down because he was interested in getting, into the install and figuring things out while they were signing the contract. And if you look at the picture of him signing the contract, like the little shot that they have, the iPad is literally right off to the side.
Well, there you go. You got a guy that's ready to jump into it right away. I mean, that's all you need to hear, right? I think that's the type of guy you're going to want in the locker room. The guy that hasn't even signed his contract yet, and he's already trying to get into the playbook. So that's all I need to hear, right? I mean, to me, he's gonna be up to speed, know the offense. He's been in the league, right? So it's so much easier to try to understand and digest an offense after you've kind of been in the National Football League for a little bit of time, because everyone does. It's all similar terminologies and formations. People are going to do it different ways and call it different things, but like once you see it and understand it, it'll click. So I think the expectation for Romeo is to probably pick this up pretty quickly and be a guy that's just going to be out there on the field day one of OTAs and kind of understand and know this offense, front and back.
Last question for me today. Have you ever seen anything like what's happened with Maxx Crosby, the Raiders, and the Ravens over the last 2+ weeks? The only thing I can think of is, do you remember when Drew Brees, they were talking about trading Drew Brees from the Chargers to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins wouldn't sign off on his medicals? And
no, I don't. I thought you were
yeah,
going to bring up Bill's handwritten note to the Jets.
yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah, there's that too, where all of a sudden things kind of take a left turn and things get a little weird. But the only time I've ever seen something like this happen was with Breeze, and he ends up going to the Saints and has a Hall of Fame career, and the Dolphins signed Dante Culpepper and are never the same again. And so there's all sorts of what ifs that kind of spin off of that. But I've never seen, at least again since then, in the last 19, 20 years, I've never seen anything happen like this with a player in a franchise when you talk about free agency.
Yeah, it's weird, and I think that everyone was saying there's got to be more to this story, but it's one of those things I feel like we'll never know unless one of the sides comes out and says what was the real reason why the signing didn't happen as he was in the building, and all these it's like you kind of scratch your head as to why they even brought him in and said that they were going to sign him, but with fully understanding that he just had a surgery, and you almost like would expect him to not pass the physical no matter what you did because he just had a surgery. But the NFL is a weird business, man. And I guess maybe there is, some trusted doctor in Baltimore that they just was able to convince them enough that, maybe it just was there. He saw something on some scan that was like, well, there's a risk here, and they were going to invest a lot of money, and and it seems like Max has done a total 182 on his support for Oakland, and I don't know. Maybe he had a closed door conversation with Brady, and they squared some things away and figured this out, and got him kind of amped. Because listen, if you want a guy to back your team and want to be excited about playing, he'd be the guy in Oakland to want to be there because he's just an unbelievable player. So who knows? I mean, it's like, why did Malcolm Butler not play in the Super Bowl? I don't know, but nobody's ever going to know. Right? Why did the Ravens pull their contract after they pretty much had him in we might never know. But
well, I'm curious, did you ever have a situation with a team medical staffer going from one team to another who maybe signed off on you here, but didn't sign off on you here? I was trying to explain to people that it's not like a league-wide thing, that each team has their own medical people. They make their own medical decisions based on something that they see. And I'm curious, did you ever have that kind of situation when you were in the league, going from one team to another? One team might have kind of, checked you off and said, okay, you're good. But another team says, well, we want to work on this. We want to take a closer look at this.
No, but I have seen teams where the degree of power that some of these team doctors have kind of varies, right? I've been on teams where trainers and doctors, they carry a lot of what they say carries a lot of weight, right? And then I've also been on teams where team doctors are just kind of like their consultants, right? And coaches are going to listen and trainers are going to listen, but at the end of the day, they're going to come up with their own decision. And then I've been on the opposite where, owners and coaches are, it's seemingly the trainers and doctors are signing the guys themselves, based off of what they see and evaluate.
Can I ask you maybe where New England fell on that spectrum?
Bill made his own decisions. I think that they were educated, and I think that I think the training room and the guys in the training room in New England were fantastic, and I think that they always were truthful and honest about how guys are either coming off an injury, rehab, and all these different things. And I think that Bill, he was he listened, right, and that was something that he was always doing, was communicating with the training staff and the weight staff and the doctors, and making sure that he had all of the right information so that he can say, all right, it's time to get this guy in the field and kind of push him a little bit, or he needs a little bit more time to kind of get him reacclimated. So I think one of the things that Bill did well was how much he did communicate with doctors and trainers, and making sure that he was, I guess, doing the right thing by the player, and making sure that, and he communicated with the player too, right? It wasn't just making the decision because he wanted to make the decision, right? There were times where he was making sure that he was communicating of like, all right, like, are we ready to go? Like, are you hurt or are you injured? Like, there's a difference. Like, can we get out there, and are you willing to go out there? So, I mean, it always comes down to the player in this league, because getting injured is kind of a death sentence, right? Or it can be, right, depending on where you fall in the pecking order of your contract, and all of these different things. But yeah, New England did a really good job. So maybe it could be the case, right, where Baltimore, the doctors and the training staff, just they saw something, and they made up their decision about this could be a big risk for the amount of money that they were going to be signing this guy for. And seemed like Baltimore made up their minds in under 24 or within 24 a day, right? And pulled that contract. So I think the AFC West should be terrified, because it seems like it's lit a fire underneath that guy's ass. And Crosby is now out for everyone, where you're like, that's not somebody I would want to try to motivate in that way if you're playing against him. But here it is, right? So looking forward to watching him on the field on Sundays. That this upcoming year. Guy's
Chris
gonna be
Hogan.
an animal.
Oh yes, he will. What's the sack? What did Myles Garrett hit this year for the sack record? 20 plus?
21 and a half.
21 and a half.
We're
gonna he's gonna hit maybe 25 this year. What's the over under?
Yeah. It's gonna be it's gonna be high. Vegas will definitely have some odds out there. So
get our guys from FanDuel to
we need FanDuel to
right, definitely. Chris Hogan, thank you very much, my friend. Take care, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right.